She was only 16 when the world she knew vanished into silence, her laughter echoing only in the memories of those who loved her, and the pain of her absence settled like a shadow no one could escape. Her name was Emily, a bright and radiant girl with dreams bigger than her small hometown, a girl whose eyes carried a spark that made everyone around her believe she was destined for something extraordinary, yet destiny chose to twist her life into something unimaginable, something her family and her community would speak about for decades. That morning was ordinary, so painfully ordinary that her mother, Margaret, could recount every detail even after 25 long years. Emily rushed down the creaking staircase, her schoolbag dangling carelessly from her shoulder, her hair tied in a messy knot because she was never one for perfection, her laughter filling the air as she grabbed a piece of toast, kissed her father Thomas on the cheek, and promised she would be back home early since she had plans with her best friend Sarah after school. Nothing in her voice, nothing in her steps, nothing in the way she looked back at the door hinted that this would be the last time her parents would see her walk out of the house as their little girl. Evening came, and when Emily did not return, Margaret felt the first pang of unease, the clock hands ticking louder in her ears with each passing minute. By nightfall, panic had wrapped its claws around her heart, and Thomas drove frantically through the streets, calling her name, stopping at shops, gas stations, and parks, but no one had seen her. The phone at Sarah's house rang unanswered, the streets felt emptier than ever, and dread grew heavier with every passing hour. By dawn, the police were called, and the search began. Posters with Emily's face were plastered across town, search parties combed the woods, divers dragged the river, dogs traced her scent to the edge of the forest where it vanished as if the earth itself had swallowed her whole. Neighbors joined in, helicopters scanned from above, and still there was nothing, no shoe, no phone, no trace of a struggle, no explanation. Margaret sat in Emily's room night after night, inhaling the faint scent left on her clothes, clutching the notebooks she scribbled in, staring into the mirror that still held her fingerprints, whispering prayers into the darkness as though her daughter could hear her across whatever void had claimed her. Days became weeks, weeks became months, and months stretched into years, each birthday marked by an empty chair, each holiday dimmed by grief, each sunset a cruel reminder of what had been stolen. Thomas withdrew into silence, burying his pain beneath layers of work, while Margaret clung desperately to hope, refusing to change a single thing in Emily's room, convinced she would walk back in one day. Sarah, Emily's best friend, was haunted by guilt, for she had been the last person to see her alive. Emily had left her house smiling that afternoon, promising to walk home, and Sarah never imagined those words would replay in her mind for the rest of her life as the last she would ever hear. 25 years passed, the world moved forward, technology advanced, children were born, lives rebuilt, but Margaret's heart remained frozen in that night, always waiting, always watching, always whispering prayers into a silence that gave no answer. And then, on a cold autumn evening when the trees had turned golden and the air smelled faintly of rain, a knock came at Margaret's door. With tired steps, she opened it, and what she saw stole the breath from her lungs and shattered her fragile world again, but this time with shock beyond reason. Standing there, shivering slightly in the porch light, was Emily, 16, unchanged. Wearing the same clothes she had worn the night she disappeared, the same schoolbag slung over her shoulder, the same nervous smile on her lips, her wide brown eyes filled with tears as she whispered, "Mom, I'm home." Margaret staggered back, her knees weak, tears flooding her eyes, and she reached out a trembling hand to touch Emily's face, terrified this vision would dissolve like smoke, but Emily was solid, warm, real. Thomas came rushing, and when he saw her, his tough exterior cracked, tears streaming down his face for the first time in decades as he whispered her name as though speaking it too loudly would break the spell. Neighbors gathered, the police were called again, but confusion reigned because this was not possible. Emily was exactly as she had been, not a day older, not a single wrinkle, as if time itself had frozen her. Doctors examined her, scientists whispered theories, but everything was the same. Her DNA matched, her fingerprints were identical, her memories stopped on the night she vanished, and she spoke as if she had only just walked through the woods minutes ago, describing strange whispers, a flickering light, and then suddenly finding herself standing on her street again. To her, only hours had passed, but for the world, it had been 25 years. At first, the family rejoiced, overwhelmed with gratitude and love, embracing her return as a miracle, but as the days went by, shadows of unease began to creep in. Emily did not understand the technology around her, did not recognize the older faces of her classmates, struggled to accept that Sarah was now a middle-aged woman with children of her own while she was still the same 16-year-old who had last laughed with her. At night, Margaret would sometimes wake to find Emily standing by the window, staring at the woods with tears streaming down her cheeks, whispering words Margaret did not understand, words that sounded like a language she had never heard, and once when Margaret asked, Emily only shook her head and whispered, "They'll come for me." Fear clawed at Margaret's heart, but she dared not press further. Strange things began to stir in the town. Lights flickered without reason, animals grew restless near the woods, some people swore they heard voices when walking home alone, whispers calling their names in the dark. One evening, Thomas found a small silver locket in Emily's school bag, one neither he nor Margaret had ever seen before. When they opened it, inside was not a photograph of family or friends but an image of a place. Vast fields beneath a sky with 2 moons, a place that could not belong to this world. When Thomas asked about it, Emily's face went pale, and she whispered, "I promised I wouldn't tell, they're watching." From that moment, a sense of dread gnawed at the family, because they realized Emily's return was not just a miracle but a warning, a reminder that she had been somewhere beyond human comprehension. And then, one night, Margaret woke to find Emily gone again, her bed empty, the front door wide open, the cold wind rushing through the hallway. Panic surged through her as she ran outside calling her name, and there, at the edge of the woods, she saw her daughter standing in a circle of pulsing light, her face illuminated with both sorrow and longing. Margaret screamed for her to come back, but Emily turned with tears streaming down her face and whispered across the distance, "I was never meant to stay, I belong to them." And before Margaret could reach her, the light enveloped Emily, swallowing her whole, and then it vanished, leaving behind only silence and the echo of a mother's cries. On the ground lay the silver locket, glimmering under the moonlight, but when Margaret picked it up, the reflection inside still showed 2 moons, as if mocking the reality they lived in. By morning, Emily was gone once more, no trace left behind, and though the world would again whisper theories and call it a mystery, Margaret knew in her heart the truth, that her daughter had been taken to a place beyond time, beyond comprehension, and that her return had only been a farewell. She had come back not to stay but to say goodbye, leaving her family with the haunting knowledge that somewhere, in a world they could never reach, Emily remained 16 forever, untouched by time, a ghost of love and loss that would echo in their hearts until their last breath. And so the story of Emily became not just a mystery whispered in their small town but a wound carved into the soul of everyone who heard it, a reminder that sometimes the universe does not play by our rules, and that the ones we lose may not always be gone. They may be elsewhere, waiting, watching, bound to destinies we cannot understand, and the cruelest part of love is learning to let go even when the heart refuses.